Hello wonderful people, welcome back again to Anointed Lady TV, the home of news and politics. And we drop news every day, and we also react to every videos that comes our way. If it is your first time in this channel, you are highly welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. And if you are returning subscribers, we appreciate you for your massive support, and we say may God richly bless you all for supporting this channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please kindly smash on the subscribe button, put on the bell so you get to know anytime we drop a new video. I have a video to present to you this very moment, and I will be watching that video with you. And after watching, let's drop our opinion constructively at the comment section, like our videos, and also share our videos if possible. Bye for now.
Anti-grazing laws and banning of open grazing is a satanic agenda to destroy our means of livelihood by desperate politicians acting on faulty and self-serving security reports. It is Frederick Bestia in 1801, in his economic sophism, who said, when plunder becomes a way of life of a group of men living together in a society, they create for themselves in the course of time a legal system that authorizes it and a moral code that glorifies it. This is a clear case of the current rush to create negative laws against our cultural heritage. Anti-grazing laws and policies are attempts to ban open grazing are nothing but populist and corrupt-driven agenda designed by visionless, inept, and desperate politicians to destroy pastoralist means of livelihood. These dangerous and satanic laws must be nipped in the bud by the National Assembly to safeguard the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as it portends greater danger to the corporate existence of the country. These oppressive laws and hostile policies being enacted by state governors are fundamentally going against the Fulani pastoralist culture, economic interests, and constitutional rights. It is important to note that interstate movement of pastoralists is similar to interstate commerce, which is an exclusive preserve of the legislative powers of the National Assembly under Item 62 of the exclusive legislative list. To this effect, any action taken by any state assembly that is in conflict with the above section of the 1999 Constitution as amended is null and void and of no effect and of no consequences to the pastoralists. These laws do not take into cognizance the sociology, economic of production, climate variation, and other push factors that are inherent in pastoralist movements across ecological zones. It is a common knowledge that Nigerian mode of agricultural practice is still primitive all over the country and are not consistent with global best practices. So why singling out the pastoralists who have been suffering from cumulative years of neglect in terms of development from both federal, state, and local governments? There is a looming danger and security implications of these satanic laws by the ill-informed governors on national security. The laws will destroy livestock production and send into poverty millions of people that depend on livestock value chain. The butchers, the transporters, the livestock dealers, the consumers who are used to affordable source of beef and milk are going to be affected. The laws will undermine relative peace and stability currently enjoyed in local communities and threaten social order. The laws will exacerbate cattle rustling in local communities as criminal gangs and state-sponsored vigilantes like Amotekun and other state-sponsored gangs to be rustling our cattle. The laws will lead to a serious humanitarian crisis as families will be destabilized, market and economic livelihood will be disrupted. The laws will lead to massive cross-border migration that will create further security challenges for the country. Our prayers. The National Assembly and Mr. President to intervene and stop the current attempts by some state governors to criminalize our means of livelihood of cattle rearing through enacting of satanic and obnoxious laws they call anti-grazing laws, which I call anti-Christ, targeted at Fulani pastoralists. The federal government should create a ministry for livestock and fisheries as obtainable in many African countries. Nigerians should adopt strategies in responding to changes of climate change as it affects livestock production, not negative laws. Government should take an inventory of all existing grazing reserves, traditional grazing areas, transhumance corridors, major stock routes, and fully develop at least one grazing reserve in each senatorial zone in line with the recommendation of the Interministerial Committee on Livestock Development in Nigeria 2015, the report of Presidential Committee on Pastoralism and Insecurity 2014, and the Livestock Transformation Program. The existing African Union and ECOWAS protocols regulations of pastoralists and transhumans should be domesticated, and proper documentation and implementation strategies be put in place to check illegal migrations into the country. The government should incorporate pasture development in the implementation of the Great Grain Wall, in combating desertification and preservation of small water bodies. A review of the Land Use Act is long overdue to accommodate the interests of all land resource users, particularly pastoralists who are in need of land to do their business. Ranching, as envisaged by many, requires massive capital investment and is difficult to sustain, not economical, and is not smallholder centered. So government should lead in the way of creation of ranches, because a poor stakeholder cannot have the money to buy land to create ranches. We are calling on the proper funding of the National Commission for Nomadic Education and expansion of its mandates to educate pastoralists to imbibe modern ways of livestock production. The National Assembly should come to the rescue of the pastoralists by resuscitating and passing the Grazing Reserve Commission Bill and other livestock management bills that were initiated by previous National Assemblies and still lying fallow. There is need to introduce livestock tracking using GPS technology and support community-based conflict mechanism. In a similar vein, our organization totally condemned the continuous extortion of Fulani pastoralists and profiling of Fulanis by the governor of Benue State, Samuel Otom, and call on him to offer an unreserved apology to the Fulani race for the tissues of lies, propaganda, falsehood against the Fulani ethnic group, particularly our organization, the Miyethi Alakautal Hore. Our organization applauds the renewed efforts of security agencies in the massive onslaught against criminals, cattle rustlers, kidnappers, bandits, particularly the near decimation of Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast, arrest of the notorious Biafran terrorist Nnamdi Kanu, and the smoking of the murderous Yoruba bandit gangster Sunday Igboho that is languishing in Benenua prison. Our organization totally condemned the vituperations of one Emir of Muri in Taraba State for genocidal propaganda against the Fulani pastoralists, and have since taken the necessary legal steps against the misguided local monarch, and have written to the Taraba State governor to immediately dethrone the deranged monarch. Finally, we commend the courageous efforts of the federal government under the progressive leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari for listening to our consistent call to restore existing grazing reserves and routes, create new ones, as it is the only sustainable solution to the farmer-herder conflict in this country. What is the arable land we have in Nigeria? We have over 38.7 million hectares. How much is being cultivated? Less than 40% of that land is under cultivation. That is one. Secondly, we have marginal lands that are not cultivatable. The hilly areas, lands that are not meant for agriculture, nobody is cultivating. The whole thing, the policy is not designed to bring peace and progress. You must accommodate the pastoralists. You must first agree that they are Nigerians, that this challenge of land resource use have to be addressed. Once we address it, look at our nature of agricultural practice. It's still rudimentary, extensive cultivation of land. So the land is enough. What we don't have is the will and the will to accommodate these pastoralists. Just because they don't have title on the land, that doesn't remove them from being Nigerians. Their need for the land has always been opportunistic. Now that agreed population have increased, what strategies are there in place? Technology is there to address the issues. But you cannot say we should just go and create ranches in the air. We love to have ranches, we love to have our children, our people settle in one place to develop. But when you give a zero option, you either ranch or you live to where? What I expected from these governors to consider these herders as their citizens. Designate places for them, which we have it all over the country. They are not after taking anybody's land. All over the West African sub-region, herders have not grabbed land anywhere. Even when they had opportunity to grab land, they have never grabbed land because their need for land is opportunistic. So now we are facing a challenge in this country where we have conflict between farmers and herders, and it's basically land resource conflict on land and water. What do you need is a proper land management that we need in place. That is all. Create the ranches, give us, we are ready to rent the ranches. We can't say either we ranch or we go. Who will even give you the land? Go and look at the Land Use Act. For you to access 5 hectares of land, a governor have to approve it for you. You have already mobilized the population, the local citizens, against the herders as the people perpetrating conflict. Who will now offer them land if they want to buy? So you must see this thing in a wider perspective. But the truth is that the herders will not go anywhere. They are Nigerians. So if you destroy their means of livelihood, you'll be faced with other challenges of crisis, banditry, and what have you. That's why we are concerned. That's why we are shouting and crying. We love peace more than anybody. The herder carries everything he has on his head, including his family. So he will be the last person to look for crisis. What we will not accept is for the country or the narrative to hang insecurity on the herders. We are victims. If you have rural areas that are ungovernable, you have bandits, you have terrorists terrorizing rural areas, it's not the responsibility of innocent herders to fish them out. It's the responsibility, it's a failure of government to do that. We are also victims. So by the time now you think you can use ethnic profiling and brand every herder as a criminal, then you are not helping the situation. Even those that are not in crime, you now push them into crime by association. Particularly the one from Katsina State, my state, is confused because in front of their eyes, all the Fadama areas have been taken over. All the watering points that are meant to serve both herders and farmers have been converted into Fadama areas for cultivation. They are supposed to be the leading states in finding solution to this crisis because these herders are culturally attuned to the people. They are mostly from there. They should create ranches to serve as example for other states to copy. They should provide amenities to these herders. So all these pretensions they are doing, they are running out from their responsibilities. They allow this crisis to accumulate and also affect other parts of the country. What you see happening in Zamfara, Katsina, Niger State is a consequence of abandoning the herders over the years, neglecting them. No education, no any development of the livestock sector. And you now want to force them into banditry. It's a failure of governance. So how can they stop transportation of, are we the one transporting cattle? The business of the value chain of cow business involves everybody in the society, not just Fulani people. So can they, if they close down the whole market, probably it's for temporary security measures. Maybe they want to do some operations, as we know that is ongoing in Zamfara. But I know nobody will say, I'm closing cattle markets over the country, because the people that the market sustain, you cannot imagine when you go down. How many are employed by government? So we support any security measure that will bring peace. But what we are saying is that we are the first line of victims of these bandits. The new Minister of Agriculture, I pray he will not join the bandwagon of those somersaulting from Ruga to ranching to Brazilian grass, tomorrow livestock transformation. What we need is simple. Designate grazing areas for us. Develop massive infrastructure that herders will have communal use there. It's not difficult to create dams and say this area is for herders. Then introduce the modernization gradually. You have where you do the breeding, you have people that develop the feed slots, but the governors are not investing in anything. So how do they expect to solve the problem? But when you go and check their expenditure profile, security vote, billions, I pray EFCC go after all of them.